Hello, thank you for viewing this video demonstration of an example root cause analysis using Causelink. My name is Brian Hughes and I am an instructor investigator with Sologic. In this example, we will walk through a root cause analysis that analyzes the negative impacts on society due to opioid addiction. Now, this is obviously a huge problem, and we won't pretend that this RCA is the sum total of all the good work people have done in this area. However, an RCA is a great place to pull information from diverse sources together so you can see how the causes combine to create effects. We used our browser-based software Causelink to build this RCA. Causelink is a terrific root cause analysis platform that can be used to analyze any problem. It also provides a repository for all your RCAs so they are accessible to everyone. So let's begin. When I log in, Causelink brings me to the dashboard. Here, I can see a list of my most recent RCAs along with other information. I'll click to open the Opioid RCA. I would recommend following along with me as I walk through this example. Go to www.sologic.com and click View All Examples. This will bring up a list of all our example problems in an instance of Causelink. Click the link for the opioid example and then hover over Report and then mouse down to click Problem Statement. The problem statement is the place where we document all the relevant information about the problem. The focal point is the issue being analyzed. You'll see that we chose the statement negative public impact due to opioid addiction. Now, that is a pretty broad statement, but as you will see when we build the cause and effect chart, this statement allows us to examine the causes of opioid addiction along with the negative impacts it has on society. The when section documents when the problem is occurring. A big problem like this spans decades. And in the where section, you can see that we've limited our scope to the USA. The actual impact section documents the severity of the problem. We look at both quantitative impacts, such as costs, and qualitative impacts that are more difficult to measure. In this case, the cost estimate is simply enormous. The best info I could find came from a study looking at the societal costs from 2007 of prescription opioid abuse. Now, that's just 1 year. And it doesn't take into account the costs associated with heroin or opioid painkillers obtained illicitly. Extrapolate these estimates over a few decades, and the overall impact is mind-boggling. But those are just the dollars. The estimates from our research showed that nearly 30,000 people died in 2014 from opioid overdoses. The potential impact section documents how bad the problem could be. For instance, if we have a problem that has limited actual impact but large potential impact, we may choose to analyze it to a greater extent. Now let's move to the cause and effect chart. The cause and effect chart is a logic diagram that begins with the focal point from the problem statement. The chart deconstructs each cause into its preceding causes by taking small steps backwards in time. Through this process, we create a map that clearly shows the causes of the problem and how they relate to each other. The negative public impact due to opioid addiction can be broken down into two branches. The first is many people are addicted to opioids, and the second is negative impact. Hopefully, the strategy here is clear. You have many people addicted, and there are negative impacts, both lethal and non-lethal. The deaths caused by opioid overdose are shocking. You can see that they can be counted and categorized. The way we've done it in this chart breaks the deaths down into categories along with a general causal statement about the overall lethality of opioids. The single cause, non-lethal impact is a bit misleading because it's easy to just read it and move past. However, if we were to unpack this cause, we'd find that it is the source of most of the financial impact we talked about in the problem statement. We decided to leave it at a high level here and not take this any further for this example, but it should be easy to see how this could be the beginning of a huge analysis in its own right. Now, let's move up to the cause many people addicted to opioids. Note that at this point, we are still talking about opioids in general, but at the next level, we break it out into heroin and prescription opioid painkillers. The and/or branch applies here because in some cases, it can be either an and relationship, and in others, it can be or. I access this option by hovering over the line, clicking, and then selecting the option I want. Now we can look at the different types of opioids. Heroin use has been on the rise. This can be explained in part by the fact that prescriptions for opioid painkillers have become more prevalent in the past few decades. Now, not everyone addicted to heroin was first addicted to prescription opioids. However, when prescription insurance benefits become exhausted, and as doctors come under more pressure to limit these kinds of prescriptions, an increasing number of people make the shift to heroin to satisfy their addictions. Looking at the cause, 2.1 million people addicted to opioid painkillers, you'll see that one of its causes calls out the extreme addictive qualities of opioids. We chose not to take this any further, even though there are very interesting causes of why these substances are so addictive. Opioid painkillers historically came from doctors via legitimate prescriptions. But Mexican drug cartels have taken note of their popularity and have set up shop producing and importing them. They recognize that synthetic opioids can be much more profitable than classic heroin. And the drug delivery methods, through pills and patches, are more palatable to many people than injection, which carries a negative stigma. Let's look at the branch 259 million prescriptions written in 2012. To put it into perspective, that's a prescription for nearly every man, woman, and child in the United States in 2012. But why so many? Well, one of the main reasons is that doctors really do want to help people manage their pain, and opioids are terrific at this. Another reason is that doctors wanted to move away from NSAID painkillers such as ibuprofen. This was due to reports of liver damage and internal bleeding. More troubling, though, is that many doctors were feeling pressured to prescribe opioids. In many cases, they were trying to score higher on patient pain assessments, which had become increasingly important for obtaining positive rankings. These self-assessments could dictate Medicaid or Medicare reimbursements. And they also became important factors in assessing accreditation. However, doctors were also told in the 1990s that opioids were not as addictive as previously thought. This was largely the result of pharmaceutical companies' efforts to step up prescriptions of drugs like OxyContin. They spent billions developing synthetic opioids. This effort included a citation of a 1986 study that showed prescription opioids were not very addictive. The trouble with this was the study was determined to be based on a sample size that was too small to effectively represent the broader population. This was known, but apparently that didn't matter. The drive to recover costs and maximize profit can prove to be just as addictive and damaging as opioids. So, to sum it up, you've got a highly addictive substance being prescribed to more people at increasing rates based on faulty self-assessments and inaccurate studies over multiple decades. What could possibly go wrong? And when we put it that way, it's easy to recognize the problem and its impacts as being inevitable. But what can we do about it? That's where solutions come into play. Solutions control causes and allow you to prevent problem recurrence. Now, you may have noticed that some of the causes on the chart are different colors. That's because they have solutions attached to them. These solutions are captured on the chart, but a list containing more complete information about each solution can be found in the Solutions section under the Report tab. Causelink tracks the workflow for each solution, helping to ensure that the solutions are as effective as possible. I can collapse the solutions into a list view, which makes them easier to see without scrolling. We pulled these solutions from a variety of documents on the subject, and we know that the list is not exhaustive. And notice that we don't identify a single solution, but rather a set of solutions. The object is to diversify our solution efforts across multiple causes. This multi-pronged attack helps ensure that we reduce risk to the lowest level possible. So let's discuss this list of solutions. Note that these solutions are displayed in the order they were created. The order does not indicate priority or dependency on other solutions. The first solution is to limit the number of days a person can be administered opioids for pain. This implies that there is a relatively safe window of time that is broadly applicable. The thought is that if exposure is limited, unintended addiction will be limited as well. The second solution on our list is to rely more on non-opioid pain relievers. Of course, healthcare providers would need to monitor this closely for each patient to maintain a safe and effective balance. The third solution would be to remove or reduce the weight of pain management on the patient satisfaction surveys. It is a very subjective and variable metric that can be too easily manipulated. The fourth solution recognizes the need for an objective pain measurement method. If we move away from the current, more subjective method, we should replace it with something that is more consistently reliable. The fifth solution suggested is to prohibit pharmaceutical companies from advertising for opioid-class pain medicines. To be clear, we don't see these ads on TV, but we do see other kinds of advertising, such as the picture on this website, which is clearly intended to communicate to the prospective patient rather than to the doctor. The next solution is to implement a broad awareness campaign to help educate people on the dangers and risks of opioid prescriptions. The seventh proposed solution recommends finding ways to destigmatize addiction so people will be more willing to come forward when they've passed the tipping point from pain control to addiction. And the eighth proposed solution is pretty controversial. It involves setting up clean and safe injection sites for heroin users. This solution is directed at reducing the negative impact caused when heroin users are driven underground. It may not seem intuitive to everyone, and it may not ultimately work. But a good root cause analysis should drive out-of-the-box solutions that may seem counterintuitive. Time will tell if this is actually effective. Now, you may have input of your own, and that's the idea. The power of a good root cause analysis is that it brings different people together to focus on evidence-based causes to find creative solutions. Feel free to suggest your ideas to us, and we'll periodically update the RCA to include them. You can suggest solutions through the Contact Us form on our website. The final step is to create a report. Causelink allows you to include a higher-level executive summary as well as a more detailed summary. You can print your report by clicking the PDF tab. Choose whatever options you wish and create your PDF. I hope you found this video example to be helpful. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and share it with others that you think would find the subject of root cause analysis interesting. You can find this and other examples on our website, www.sologic.com.